the U.S. enterprise is different because it assumed that the people were the best source of governance, right? This would be in contrast to a monarchy, right? And this is where the theological is deeply embedded into the American project. And why I'm bringing this up is because it's not just a spiritual crisis, broadly speaking, but it is a Protestant spiritual crisis, particularly speaking, because these sort of Western monarchies assumed a particular religious structure. They instituted a government as a representation of that religious structure, with the Anglican Church and the British monarchy, if it was the German monarchy, if it would end up falling apart to the Protestant Reformation, in part being, I guess, also justified depending on how you want to, the chicken or the egg on that. The French monarchy, collapses to a Protestant. So you look at the history of Western governments and its relation to Catholicism and Protestantism. By itself is a interesting behavioral question. Nietzsche's going to pick up on that and say, well, maybe it's because it's an ordering principle of the moral situation which produces these governments. But the point that I'm trying to get at is that even the idea of a social existential crisis is a uniquely Protestant sub-point, uniquely U.S. problem, because when you have divine right monarchies, you do not have the basic citizen asking these questions and then expected to come up with answers for these questions. The United States, it is that case because we do not believe in a divine monarchy. We believe that God did not ordain a president to be the governor of the U.S. We believe that God has ordained the people. It doesn't use ordination language, but that the people are the basis of the authority of the U.S. government. And that is why the U.S. government has this legitimacy, because the people get to decide. This is not something that you get in most Western powers up until the American project, right? And so why I'm trying to keep putting this question back to is this unprecedented? It's not unprecedented. And the questions that we keep going after is is politics becoming religious? Is politics becoming religious? No, I think it's the problem is that it became non-religious, but we expected the government to function despite its religious foundation. If we can somehow take religion, the religious basis, out from the American government, somehow it should be able to function as if it had a religious backing. And while we knew or did not know that, we are now experiencing the fruit of that kind of swap. And what we swapped it with is just, anything, whatever you want to be is a good enough foundation. And we're finding that is totally not true. And now we've gotten to the point of a crisis of legitimacy, rightly so. When the thing that was legitimizing the U.S. government is no longer the thing that's even socially respectable, then why should the government be socially respectable? And so I think the question is that we have not taken the religious aspects of the U.S. government seriously enough. And instead we have tried to do that without religion.
To use kind of a Chesterton model, we castrate the gelding and expect it to be fruitful. We understand an ultimate reality that is true, that these systems won't work, and that you have to have a fundamental religious basis. But I guess part of the question is most people don't understand that or don't see it that way, and they don't realize that by removing the religious concept, that they're crippling the very system that they're wanting upon which to rely. And so I guess the question is will the public either accept that, or does the project have to fail before they say, I guess we needed to do something else?
Yeah.
I would even push back on that.
Does it have to just totally collapse before? Yeah.
Well, I would even push back on that point.
Oh, let me just make one point though, before you jump in, let me just make one point. Lenny, we have to remind ourselves, if you're ever going to invoke Chesterton on this podcast, Logan has to be the first one to do it. But okay. Otherwise,
okay.
That may have been a Lewis quote though about the gelding. I'm not. Maybe it was a Chesterton. We'll have to.
I think it was
a little bit. It's a paraphrase from Orthodoxy. Yes,
it was probably a Lewis paraphrase of Chesterton, which is often the case. Okay,
yeah, that's probably right.
All right, Logan. Go ahead.
What I want to even push back is even the question of do we know it's religious? I think we do, because both sides are using religious language nonchalantly all the time. The other side is evil, which is religious language. The other side should be removed from political office. They should be arrested. Everything you would think in a religious conflict is happening. And so it's kind of this weird thing of like, we're, the Crusader memes, the riots in the street and attacking the people we don't like everything you'd expect in religious conflict is happening. Except we're not willing. The weird part is that we have not accepted that as religious conflict. And I'm not sure why that's the case, because if you went down the list, it's like, look at the memes. It's like, my morality is not your morality, or your view of what America should be is not my view of what America. I mean, it is a religious conflict. It's what's bizarre is that it hasn't been acknowledged. I mean, like the debate over marriage is a religious conflict. The question was, what is marriage, which is a religious institution. It's not a partnership. It's not a cohabitation question. It was a marriage question. It started off as a religious question. The question about the sanctity of life. It's characterized in religious language. Like, the entire conflict has been religious. And the left is very open about it being a conflict of religion. And the right is also very open about it being a conflict of religion. And so, I mean, we're having a debate about Christian nationalism. We have every label necessary to scream from the rooftop, we have a religious crisis. But everyone's like, but we need to separate religion from politics. Like, no, what we're doing is we've removed politics and now all we have is religion.